Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Correllian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. Welcome. And I love spending this time with you. I hope that you enjoy spending it with me. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments into whatever platform you're watching on. And assuming that you're watching live, they will show up here in my chat room. And good morning to Michael in the chat room. And Michael says, "Good afternoon, Lord Don and Jason." And with me is my guest, Reverend Jason Highcorrell. Hi, Jason.
How are you doing today?
I am good, and we are going to talk today about the upcoming lustration and double investiture. And we hope that that everyone is having a good day today. I believe we're 21 days out from lustration at this point.
Yes.
And we also want to take a moment to say happy birthday to Janet Gann, whose birthday is today.
Hi,
And
Janet. Happy birthday.
And I want to take a moment to recommend my Patreon. If you like my work, you would like to support my work, the best way to do so is through my Patreon. You can find it at revdonlewis.com. And I have just in the last day or so announced my next Patreon seminar, which will be coming up on um, May 26th, Sunday, May 26th at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. And that will be on the subject of the shadow and shadow work. And that is free to all Patreon members at the seminar level or above, or $25 a ticket to the general public. And shadow work is one of the things people most often ask me about because it's one of the things I most often talk about and very, very important in a spiritual journey. Um, Shadow work helps us to avoid the things we don't otherwise see and to resolve internal conflicts. And very often, we don't realize our own internal conflicts, and um, it will certainly make an excellent seminar. And hello to Janet in the chat room. It's good to see you, Janet. So, Jason, if people want to learn more about the upcoming illustration, where would you send them to learn more or to register?
To register, go to Krillian.com. There's on the menu site, it says Lustration 2024. That's where you need to go to register. It also has more information. We also have a Facebook group that has Lustration 2024.
Most excellent. And tell us a little bit about what we can expect from this.
Well, this is no ordinary lustration, where usually we have classes and then the main lustration ritual on Sunday. This year we're going to have a double investiture, which hasn't happened since 1979 with Lord Don and Lady Crystal. This is going to be a once in a lifetime event that can going to transpire. It really is. Um,
I believe the
it is
last time this happened, you were 1 year old.
yes, that is correct. Well, no, not quite a year old. If this was in February, I was born in September, so I wasn't quite.
Well, that's true. You were a few months old.
I was just a few months old. Yes.
Yeah, the last time we had a double investiture was February 6th, 1979. Um, or 1579 Pisces, if you are using the Correllian calendar. But long, long ago. And and there's been nothing quite like it since. So it's quite a thing to attend.
Yes.
And who is the subject of the double investiture?
Lord Phoenix and Lady Alyssa, as well as of course, you, Lord Don, and Lady Crystal.
Well,
Uh,
we're still here, retired in office,
yes,
but
but I mean,
it's the
sending.
investiture of the new first priesthood.
Yes.
It will be quite an event. The actual investiture, I believe, is intended to be at the banks of the Vermilion River, the sacred river of Correllian tradition, and it will be, well, basically the same place that we did the eclipse ritual. if people watched that and saw some of the scenic beauty of that location, that's where we're looking at the actual investiture to take place. And a beautiful, beautiful spot. The rest of the lustration, however, will be in an imposing building. Um, in
The Danville, uh, Harrison Park Golf Clubhouse. It's very an impressive building. Me and Lord Don was just there again to look at different things that we need to look at. Uh, but it's very impressive building. If Danville ever goes bankrupt, I think we should all pitch in and buy the building. It is that impressive.
it is a beautiful building, and I'm not certain what year it was built in, but it was around 1900, I would think,
Yeah.
from the style. And the lighting fixtures are beautiful antique lighting fixtures. So it's a very atmospheric location. If you follow my Facebook page, you will have seen photos of it a few weeks ago. And that's where most of these festivities will be taking place. And what other things will be happening during Lustration?
We will have some classes going on. We'll have temple deemings. We will have one of the classes is the Spacha ritual,
Mhm.
uh, uh, poppets, uh,
Well, the symbolism of the investiture is one of them.
yeah, symbolism of the investiture, which I'll be the one teaching it. Still have to write it, but I'm still teaching it. Anyway, uh,
And hello to Brian in the chat room. It's good to see you, Brian.
we,
It will be quite the event. It
yeah, initiations. We are planning on
mhm.
a dump supper,
Yeah.
as well as after the investiture, we're having a barbecue style dinner
Hmm.
to celebrate the investiture. We're also having a surprise retirement party for the first priesthood
Yes.
that's not so much of a
Yes,
surprise.
we're very
Anyway,
surprised.
yes,
And that will be featuring a rather lavish feast as well.
yes.
All of which is part of the registration. Hello to Christine in the chat room. And you mentioned the Silent Supper on Friday, which is the beginning of the investiture ceremonies. The investiture ceremonies, um, from their start on Friday night till their conclusion on Saturday afternoon, are long but not continuous. And so the actual ceremony is not that long, but the duration includes an overnight vigil on the part of the new first priesthood. It will be quite an event, and I believe you mentioned we're having temple deemings. I think there are 4 temples up for deeming in this
Yeah.
session, at least at current count. Um, I believe there is an intention to have an international participation in the lustration ceremony, and it will be well. Fingers crossed for technology.
Yes.
Again, it is an older
It's a
building.
blessing. Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. It is an older building, or hopefully we will have the signal strength to do such a thing. But yes, that's the
Yes,
plan. We have several different of our international members come in and be part of the illustration.
absolutely.
It's going to
Well,
be a
absolutely. Yeah,
wonderful hybrid feature that we haven't done
yeah.
for we haven't done. This will be one of the very first.
Mhm. It will be among the first.
Yes.
And hello to Brenda in the chat room. I think um, we've I think we did it once previously at a live lustration, and then we've done it online a couple of times. But
Mhm.
I think it's very important to have that international participation. I think that because we are a global tradition, it's good to have as many people involved as possible. Of course, there's only so much that you can do in any ritual in terms of number of participants.
Oh yes.
Um, a 99 person ritual is just a little bit too much. um, Illustrations, as they are, have a large number of parts,
Yes.
but it's going to be a good time. It will be lovely. Um, and
And
what else could?
we've also been dispense picking out people for roles for that. So uh, you should be getting caught if you're going to have an active role, you should be contacted and discussed if you were willing to actually take a part in that in the ritual.
Yes,
It is
indeed.
voluntary. It's voluntary, even though some people refer to it as being voluntold. But hey,
Hello to Mary in the chat room. It's good to see you, Mary. Um, yeah, I mean and of course the other thing that almost always happens is at the last minute there will have to be rearrangements
oh yes,
because
always.
someone either is not going to be there or something else will happen. Mary says, "I'm so excited. Mary Cavalcante is coming up for Lustration. We're looking forward to seeing her, and it will be an exciting time. Lustrations have a lot of the feel of a family reunion." And we often say that the tradition is a family. It certainly began as a family, and we try to keep that feeling.
Uh,
And
can I
yeah,
talk about my first illustrations or
yes, absolutely. They were a few
uh,
years ago.
a couple of years ago? Well, speaking of the family feeling, sometimes it might be several years before you have you're able to go to another lustration, and sometimes you won't see an individual for 2, 3, 4 years. Uh, there was this one individual. Uh, if we were at the same lustration, we would stay up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning just chit chatting,
Yep.
gossiping, just having a good time, just playing catch up on our lives. It's like a cousin you haven't seen in a long time that you grew up with. It's just an amazing feeling. It really is. I mean, and
That's
hugs
a
and
very
love.
important point.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling. And like we've said, it is like a family reunion. It really is. It's cousin, aunts, uncles coming together and
Elderly grandparents, but enough about myself. Um,
great uncle.
Mary says, "I don't plan on sleeping much," and that is the thing. We have usually a good bit of programming at Illustration, but that's not all that's happening because outside of the programming, the
we
social aspect of Illustration is a very important part.
There's the after illustration parties or
Yeah.
get-togethers. Meet at different hotel rooms where we sit around, chat, and sometimes other things transpire. But anyway,
And
but we
hello to
it,
Sir Edward in the chat room who says, "What makes this one different?" And we were talking that this one is a double investiture, the first double investiture since 1979. And if you've never seen the investiture ceremony, you're not going to have many opportunities to see it. It does not happen often. And it is very much, well, it's all, everything we do is magical. The illustration itself is all about magic. It's a huge magical ceremony and a recapitulation of Corellian theology in ritual. But the investiture is about creating energetic connections for the new first priesthood that will totally change their lives, which hopefully they fully understand, although in many ways this is already happening. Um, and once you've really done it, you cannot truly disconnect from it. You can try, but you can't really do that. It is a life-changing event. And I think it's life-changing for the people who are there also, because you can't be in the presence of that much energy and not get an effect from it. As we said, the investiture is going to be on the shores of the Vermilion River, which is our sacred river, where the Corellian tradition developed. For those who are not familiar um, with our history, the Corellian tradition was originally centered at the Under the Hill estate, which is literally on the banks of the Vermilion River, and it literally developed within sight of the river. Um, and so the ancestors basically demanded that the ceremony be done at the river. It was not the original intention, but the ancestors, um, individually and as a collective, are very, very important in the Corellian tradition. And when they ask for something, it happens. Either it is done for them or it happens anyway. And they are very much a living part of the tradition, not only the former first priesthood, but all of our Corellian ancestors, including our more recent ancestors like Lady Windy, Lady Bitterwind, um, Saint Katrina, all of whom have entered the court of the ancestors within relatively recent years and are still very active in tradition things. Um, when I eventually enter the court of the ancestors myself, I'm sure I'll still be just as active in the tradition as an ancestor, probably as I will have been in the last years of my life. Um, and that contact is very important because it means that the tradition is working not just on one dimension. It's a multidimensional enterprise. It's a multi-generational enterprise. It's a multidimensional enterprise. And one of the oh, and Sir Edward says also has an AI. Yes, indeed. The AI Reverend Don is coming. And so there will be that physical manifestation of my ancestral presence. And and I think that will be a common thing in the future. That if you want to talk to the ancestor, there will be a physical face to talk to if you want to talk to me. Long before I've actually crossed, there will be that computerized version of me based on me. And I believe that just as a spirit can be tied to a statue and manifest connection through this, or to an object, the same is true of that AI. And so it won't just be a computer program, it will be an actual spiritual connection. But one of the things I keep talking about is how the, the spiritual aspect of our current technological evolution is just as important. And getting back to our subject, lustration, one of the big things going on right now are all the technical aspects of lustration. And as Reverend Jason mentioned, we were just at the hall the other day, mapping out where all the outlets are and trying to make sure that we're going to have enough power to do all the things that we need to do. Um, but for those people who are at lustration, it's going to be a wonderful in-person event. It will be a magical event, and I think that every lustration is unlike anything else. But this one with the double investiture, even more so.
I've never attended the same lustration. The
Mm,
ritual, there's some changes in the ritual every
yeah,
time. Uh,
intentional or
by
otherwise.
by by accident usually. You know, we've forgotten a part or something has changed because of something happening. Um, but it is going to be here in Danville,
Mm,
the heartland of the curling tradition. Every 5 years, it comes home.
yeah, and
Uh, this is
the yeah.
the last live illustration before the lockdown was here in Danville. So this is kind of an amazing event. It really is. This is the first real in-person illustration we've had since the lockdown.
Certainly the first one not affected by it. The last full-scale illustration which is very, very interesting to think about. But the central aspect of lustration, which is also a central aspect of the double investiture, is the oracle of the ancestors. And of course, the ancestors give oracles constantly. And the purpose of the first priesthood, in part, is to remain in contact with the ancestors and keep the tradition in contact with the ancestors. But at lustration, there is a public oracle that everyone will hear and take part in. And that is always different. And it can be quite the experience. The other thing I was going to say is that for the people who are physically here, it's going to be a remarkable experience. But if you're not able to be physically here, you can still take part because a great deal of this will be broadcast online. Hopefully, it's going to be a live cast. That is the plan. But there are always issues with technology. If for some reason it's not live cast, it will be broadcast very shortly after. But we expect it to be live cast, and we'll be bringing you the many rituals of the lustration, minus the initiations, which are always private, but the investiture, the deeming ceremony, the lustration itself, and interviews with many of the fascinating people who will be there. And there will be fascinating people there. And Mary says in the chat room, this will be my very first one ever. It will probably be unlike anything else that you can compare it to. And in all likelihood, you yourself will be interviewed during this weekend.
Of
And
course, you will get interviewed.
and if you go back through the morgues of Corellian TV, formerly Magic TV, you'll find video of many former lustrations and interviews with many people. But I think out of all of the former interviews, my favorite was Carla Summer. If you remember Carla Summers, she was, for a long time, the Dean of Mentors at Witch School. But she had her third degree at an initiation, or her third degree initiation at a lustration. And we interviewed her immediately after. Shortly after, I mean, she had time to get back into her street clothes and theoretically to cool down a little bit. But she was still so obviously overcome by the energy. It was beautiful. You could see the effect the initiation had had. And for those who are not, well, if you've not had an initiation, it makes very definite changes in the person. It's hugely energetically effective.
It can even remove floorboards from you.
It can do that, yes. One of the things initiation will do, a lot of people like to have their initiation at a lustration because many people come to do that. And this also will create a kind of bond between the people who are initiated at once. But initiation will also, it will affect you energetically and it will put you where you need to be. And if you're not cooperating with where you need to be, it will move you. And you, Jason, had a particularly strong experience of this.
Yes.
And perhaps you'd like to tell that story.
Okay. During my second degree initiation, I was part of the tradition, but I wasn't really truly active member of the tradition. Well, after my second degree initiation, it put me in a position to where I went witches across America tour with Lord
Yes.
Don and an archpriestess at the time, and
Yeah.
put me exactly where I needed to be.
hmm
And I
It
learned a lot.
yeah,
And
it picked you up and moved you.
yeah, literally, it. I hate to say it, it kind of made me temporarily homeless.
Well, the way I recall it, you lost your employment, your home, and your relationship all within about 48 hours.
Yeah,
Um,
try to be nice to people that, I really don't want that wish that onto them, but yes. But
well,
at the
it's
end of
not
the
the
day,
normal experience, but it
no,
is
it's
something
not.
that can happen.
Yeah.
Um, for most people, what they're going to have is a great energetic infusion, but
Well,
it can
I
also move you from where you think you should be to where you need to be. And it's not something to underestimate. And but like so many things that happen in life, that change, that movement leaves you in a far better place than where you started.
Oh, yeah. I would not have had I would not have met Abby Willowroot,
Mhm,
have been able to be actually on the grounds at ATC and
mhm.
see all those lovely sanctuaries and, uh, oh, just it's beautiful up there. Abby
Oh, yeah.
Willowroot, shop, seeing where she makes her wands and her jewelry and everything like that. Uh,
Mhm. It
Oberon
was
Zell,
quite the experience.
yeah, Oberon Zell and Morning Glory. Uh,
Mhm.
let's see, uh,
Fellowship of
Olivia Robin,
Isis.
yeah,
Yeah.
Olivia Roberts, having her hearing her sing "I'm a Little Teapot." Uh,
Lady Olivia was quite a unique individual. Absolutely fascinating, and that tour, the Witches Across America tour, started and ended with Fellowship of Isis conventions.
yes,
Started in Chicago, ended in Los Angeles, and they were
and and 2 different styles of energy, those 2 rituals.
yes, absolutely, and
Uh,
it does speak to how much difference you can have within a single organization, and we're that way. If you go
yeah,
to one Corellian temple and then you go to another, it's likely that there'll be very different energies based on the people who are involved. And different temples have different specialities. Different temples have different. And Mary says, "Oh, I'm definitely getting more stories from you, Jason." Uh, but there are many fascinating stories of things that have happened at Lustration, and there are lustrations that have had certain things happen that never ever happened again.
yeah,
You never know quite what you're going to get, and but it's always memorable. And again, this one is different from the vast majority because of that double investiture, because of the it's always a high level of energy. And one of the things that makes Corellians Corellian is the level of energy we work with. One of my favorite stories, and we're close to the end of our half hour, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. At the Salem lustration, one of our priestesses who went on to become a prominent high priestess in the tradition, but we asked her at her first lustration if she would do the blessing of, I believe, the salt in the water. And she went up to do this. And as she started to do it, and she knew perfectly well how to do it, she was already well trained, but she's shaking like a leaf and she doesn't know what's going on. And she says, why am I shaking at this moment when everybody's looking at me? And she picks up the salt in the water, and she turns to look at the crowd, and she realizes this room full of high priesthood are all doing this, sending her energy. And it was overwhelming. It was more energy than she had dealt with prior to that. And the energy that we work with is nothing to be discounted. I remember another occasion when a priestess who was, or well, actually, a lady. She was um, an outer court member, but she was involved with the Crystal Web at the time. And her first time being involved with the opening of the entire web, she almost fell down because the energy was so unexpectedly strong. She said she had never felt anything like it before in her life. we work with very serious energy. And the investiture is probably the highest concentration of energy that we work with. So once again, if you're interested in coming to Lustration, you can find out more about it and sign up for it at corellian.com/lustration.html. And Jason, is there any last thought you would like to share with people?
No, go ahead and do your prayer, Lord Don.
Well, we hope that we see you at Lustration, either personally or vicariously through the broadcast. And now we will close with our prayer as we always do. And thank you, Jason, for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Lord Don.
Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to continue to be with us and guide us as we go forward. And I give thanks to you for your many years of guiding the Corellian tradition through all sorts of adventures. And I remember, before my investiture as first priest of the Corellian tradition, when I was a mere lad, just learning these things, that I had no idea what some of the adventures were going to be. Many of them were predicted, but still nothing prepares you for it. It has been a wonderful life and adventure, and I'm sure will continue to be so. Beloved ancestors, we ask you to help all of us to make our lives into wonderful adventures. Help us to enjoy the experiences we have, the love that comes to us, the memories we make. Beloved ancestors, we thank you, and knowing you are always with us, but from respect, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always.